An integral part of growing up is finding a role model or multiple role models for us to look up to. We take traits from their personalities and ways of living and mold them into our own and become better people because of it. There's nothing wrong with it, everybody does it, and it's a natural part of life. As well as that, a good role model can really change someone's life and impact them positively. Generally, a lot of people find role models in their parents or even their friends or teachers or anyone that seems to have their life together in a way that they can really resonate with. However, in the modern day, a lot of people like to turn to the internet for their role models, and this is where the problems start coming up. While it isn't an inherently bad idea, there are a lot of bad role models there on the internet that give people a really warped and skewed perception of what life is really all about. They often target young, impressionable minds in order to gain influence over them and use them for their own benefit under the guise of self-help. Amory Andrew Tate is a former kickboxing world champion, now turned social media influencer, who has skyrocketed in popularity in recent months due to his outlandish takes and views on politics, women, and life in general, really. He's become a hot topic for people to talk about, whether it be praising him for his seemingly pro-social behavior and his messages about men and masculinity, or criticizing him for his archaic worldviews and somewhat weird business practices. It's no surprise to anyone to hear that Andrew Tate has some controversial takes. One quick Google search can show you everything about him and every controversial take he's ever had. From his sweeping generalizations about women and their abilities,
most women I know can't even park a car. Why is a woman flying my plane?
To his toxic views on men's masculinity and men's mental health and how they express themselves. Tate loves the attention, and he is absolutely fame hungry to the max. You've likely seen a lot of Andrew Tate videos in the recent months popping up on your TikTok For You page, Instagram Reels, and even Facebook to an extent. And his rapid spread is due to really two factors. One being that TikTok is the most prevalent way to spread in the modern day, and Tate takes full advantage of that. And two, him taking massive advantage of his audience. Andrew Tate is really good at manipulating his audience, and thanks to Hustlers University, he essentially has his fans pay to market himself. This is likely why it felt like you couldn't escape him. His fans were getting kickback if they signed up to Hustlers University and just completely pushed out hundreds of TikToks per day about Andrew Tate. A couple weeks ago, if you saw an Andrew Tate fan account posting videos about Tate, more often than not you would see them linked to Hustlers University through their affiliate link, which has now been shut down. Hustlers University, by the way, is just a Discord server that you pay $50 to get into. So, yeah, sure, you might get access to 18 millionaires out of your hands to teach you how to make money, just like Tate says, but again, you're paying $50 for a Discord server. Let's not even fucking talk about the war room. Tate's target demographic is vulnerable and lonely young men looking for some form of validation and someone to idolize, and Tate provides this in spades, but not in the healthiest way. Tate uses manipulation tactics to prey on impressionable young minds to further his own agenda. But he isn't the first person to do this, and he absolutely won't be the last. Lonely men seek people to idolize, and once they can't find them in their real life, they'll quickly turn to the internet to try and find someone, and they're easily ensnared by basic ideas of success like tons of money, women, cars, lavish mansions, and everything in between. They begin to follow them almost religiously. But what's the hook? How do they really get people in like this? Two very basic concepts: humor and ultra basic opinions. Humor is a great way to get people to ease up to you. If you present your information with an added side of humor, not too much, people are more likely to listen to you and to take an interest in what you're saying. As well as this, it can make you a little bit more convincing and more palatable as well. In addition to this, if you peddle a basic opinion that pretty much anyone can agree with, people are more likely to follow you closely as they feel that they can relate to you. In a study done in 2018, it was found that humor had a weak but significant impact on persuasion tactics, increasing likelihood to change behavior by 9%, which only went up by a further 8% when you included the fact that humor related to the behavioral change people were seeking was included. In essence, men who are seeking change in their life are more likely to listen to those they find humorous without going overboard. While this seems innocent enough, it can lead to a dangerous rabbit hole to fall down later, as new opinions and worldviews come to light. Because you're already convinced by the humorous opinions, you're more likely to be ensnared by the more controversial takes as well. So in essence, be a little bit funny about it, and have some basic opinions that you can't disagree with. Once you have these two things together, a lot of people will start to open up to you because they feel like they can relate to you. And this is what Andrew Tate has done exceedingly well. In the comment sections of so many Tate TikToks, you see people say, "Oh, I don't get why people hate this guy. He's kind of funny. I don't always agree with him, but man, if he ain't funny. This Tate guy is funny as hell." That is that persuasion tactic working exceedingly well. They do all of this in the guise of self-improvement, and use that as a crutch to deflect from any criticism of their weird and toxic worldviews.
About our cars, mansions, 30 hoes. Why?
Word. Because that's dope. I want to just have a well-rounded, enjoyable life. And I don't think that's possible, like for the life I want, I don't think it's possible in the West anymore because people are so brainwashed.
Yep.
Self-improvement. I'm saying, guys, we need to go
self-improve. You don't improve yourself by buying cars, houses, and fucking a lot of women.
The most prevalent thing that Andrew Tate and others like keeping it in the Twitch sphere, Sneeko and Greek God have been trying to bring back is the idea of traditional masculinity. Traditional masculinity is an idea often associated with traits such as aggression, self-affirmation, social dominance, and a lack of consideration for others, as well as embracing total heterosexuality and rejecting even anything slightly feminine. Traditional masculinity is often linked heavily with reactive aggression, which explains why these guys are always so mad whenever you question their ideas on traditional masculinity. The men who are trying to bring back traditional masculinity fail to see the core issues surrounding it, as well as the fact that it harms those endorsing it just as much as everyone around them. Let's be very clear here. Self-improvement isn't the issue, it's the toxic way in which they view self-improvement. In their eyes, the only way to improve is simply sucking it up, pushing your feelings down, and going to the gym and getting on with it. That's it. Never think about your emotions, never try to express yourself, don't even think about addressing your internal trauma and conflict. Nah, just get up, suck it up, go to the gym, and adopt all the mannerisms of a traditional male because that shit fucking rocks.
Let me tell you something. Depression is not real.
What?
Forget the fact that there is evidence that shows that men who cling to this idea of traditional masculinity are more likely to engage in harmful and reckless behavior, end up depressed and lonely, and display traits of homophobia. The latest figureheads who are peddling this idea of traditional masculinity have been getting a lot of attention due to the increasing amount of young men who are lonely, depressed, and seeking some form of guidance in life. And I get it, I really do. I have seen my fair share of content online that was targeted at men, which is what I am and what I call myself, and that's been meant to bring them down and crack them apart and completely dismantle the idea of masculinity. So I see why Andrew Tate is such a popular figure, because he is the most generic man possible, but this is not a healthy way to do it. The people who are trying to bring traditional masculinity back are very stubborn in their ways, because if you begin to question the idea of what it means to be a man, what it means to be masculine, or their worldview of what it means to be masculine, they'll immediately take what you say and spin it as an attack on masculinity, that you are trying to dismantle the entire idea of what it means to be a man and my worldview. Can we not ask questions and think critically about the concepts of masculinity without being lambasted by those who cling to an outdated ideology that creates men who can't accept the fact that people are different to them? The bottom line is that these people give their young and impressionable audience the most outdated and ridiculous view on what life is all about. Having tons of cars, lavish mansions, smoking fucking cigars every day, buying luxury items that no one person even needs, having women dripping all over you and only using them for sexual gratification. That is exactly what a weak person thinks of when they think of success and becoming a man. They do all of that while pushing pseudo-intellectual statements that sound smart, but more often than not is just common sense. Add on top of that seedlings of hate speech peppered in with these ideas, and you have created the most childish view of adulthood possible. Hate anyone different to me, tons of money is gonna make me happy, and anyone who disagrees with me is wrong because my opinion is fact. The truth of the matter is that these people are brainwashing an entire generation of young and impressionable minds with these toxic and outdated worldviews under the guise of self-improvement and guaranteeing success. Young men who try to adapt the ideas of Andrew Tate are likely to just end up lonely and dejected because adapting these ideas doesn't guarantee you any success in any way. Young men will adapt to the traits of people like Andrew Tate because they view him as the ultimate form of success, and hope that by adapting his traits, they can become like him too. They'll adapt these ideas likely to get people to talk to them, maybe even a woman to talk to them, but in reality, it's only going to push men and women and everyone else away from them because they are a fucking headache to deal with. While it's important to remember that with how vitriolic and mean-spirited I've likely come off as, it's not your fault if you're fallen victim to these toxic worldviews. Their methods are designed to manipulate you and be on their side and defend them with blind loyalty. Following these people, however, will only lead you down a rabbit hole of controversial opinions, outdated worldviews, and archaic practices that, in the long run, will probably only leave you lonely, dejected, and with an unfulfilling life because you've spent so much of it following in the footsteps of people who don't give a shit about you, only your money and the influential power you give them. Don't listen to these people trying to spread these toxic and outdated views about masculinity and what it means to be a man. Being a man is not about how many women you can fuck per week, how many houses you got, how many cars you got, the amount of money you got, and how many cigars you can smoke in a day and any shit like that. Funnily enough, being a man and masculinity is a very fluid concept that you can interpret in a lot of ways.
Please, please just hear me out, please!
Expressing your emotions has been linked with concepts of femininity and women, and you don't have to be a stone-faced, non-emotional hustler to be a man. Express your emotions. Feel sad, feel angry, feel anxious, feel however you want to feel. Feeling emotion isn't a feminine thing, it's a human thing. That is a part of life. But it's important to remember that you can feel down, you can feel sad, you can feel depressed. That is absolutely fine. But as long as you can work out of that depression, work through that anxiety, that's okay. That's better. That's great. Right? It's okay to feel sad, but it's not okay to stay sad. Work through your emotions, express them, put them out into the world, because if you keep them repressed in here, it's only gonna blow up in your face later down the line. But the problem is that young men don't have role models that give them that type of advice, or show them paths into expressing their emotions in a healthy way that they can work through to improve upon themselves. Actual self-improvement. They'd rather just sit there and say controversial statements and do controversial things to get a fire going, and once it's lit, just run with it. While it's easy to say that your outlandish things are taken out of context, or that you're playing a character, or that it's a joke, the damage is still being done regardless. Putting these sweeping generalizations out there in the world and weird views on men's mental health, regardless of if it's a joke or not, you're still putting these ideas in the heads of your viewers, and down the line that's only going to create problematic people. As well as this, completely invalidating the struggles and experiences of others shows just how shallow these people are, that you have to resort to hating on other people just to convince yourself that you are a big manly man. If you must sit and scream and cry on the internet about your masculinity and how masculine you are, it only shows that you're wildly insecure about it. The louder you scream on the internet about how masculine you are, the louder you scream about how insecure in yourself you are. At the end of the day, these people only care about two things: gaining more influential power and money. And they don't care about you. They never have, and they never will. Stop following these people who are propagating these toxic worldviews in the idea of self-help. It's not helping. Find a healthier and more meaningful way to work through your emotional struggles and trauma than following people online that just push out this toxic and weird worldview that's going to harm you in the long run more than anything. and my Bugatti's color is piss fucking yellow. Thank you very much. In the time that I spent writing this video, Andrew Tate got banned off of both Facebook, Instagram, and then TikTok soon after. And the internet is basically on fire discussing this ban. You've got some that are pissed off about it, you've got others that are overjoyed about it. And a common argument that's arising in opposition of his ban is that it's an attack on free speech, and that it's the elites, the higher ups, that are silencing him because he's telling the truth. Yeah, and now these elites are scared that someone's telling the truth, so they gotta get him gone and silence him. Social media sites are not scared of what Andrew Tate is. They are scared of the backlash that they receive en masse from his detractors by continuing to let him on the platform. They probably get millions upon millions of reports per day about Andrew Tate and think that it's just easier to ban him now and avoid the headache. That headache has now turned into a total fucking migraine. You've now got all these accounts running rampant in the TikTok comment sections calling for Tate to be allowed back on the platform. And it's even more annoying now than when he wasn't banned, as now you just have followers kicking it into overdrive, hoping that rampant idolism will let him back on. In response to the ban, Tate dropped an hour-long video detailing a lot of his issues with the ban, as well as elaborating on his morals and good deeds and experiences that he's had. In this video, Tate doesn't just play the victim card, he plays the whole fucking deck. He brings up a litany of his good deeds and past experiences in hopes that that will exonerate him of what he was banned for. Such as the fact that he's donated large sums of money to both men and women's charities, his advocacy for women's rights and his protection of women, and even brings up his race and relationships with members of the LGBTQ. He really pulls out all the stops in this video, but at this point it doesn't matter. Bring up all the good deeds, the money you've donated, the dog shelters and orphanages you've built. At this point, it's not gonna sway public opinion. The bad you have done has far outweighed the good, and you only do this now and bring them up now to try and get good PR, despite saying that the things you did and the good deeds you did weren't done because of the idea of good PR, they were done because you're a great guy. But by bringing it up now in wake of your ban, you are using it for good PR. And it somewhat invalidates the good-hearted nature of it because you're bringing it to light in a scenario where you have faced consequences for your actions, and hope that by bringing more good deeds to light, the more likely it is you'll get unbanned, and that people will start to see you for the good guy that you see yourself as, rather than a violent misogynist spreading bad views about mental health and life in general. Whether or not this video will sway public opinion about Andrew Tate is yet to be seen, but I want to touch on an aspect of this whole ordeal that people are talking about, where they say that the banning of Andrew Tate is an attack on free speech. But what a lot of people need to realize is that yes, you do have free speech, but you better be prepared for the consequences of your free speech if that speech is hateful. You are not exempt from criticism of your words under free speech. In closing, I'll reiterate that I think young men need better male role models in life, and to not become a follower of a radical group that was formed in response to another radical group. I also think that young men need better ways to vent their frustrations and address their issues, whether it be physically or mentally, in a healthier way than what's been going on. And also remember that expressing your emotions is not a bad thing. It's a part of being human. The more you repress your emotions, the more damage you're doing to yourself in the long run. By following advice where you don't really talk about your feelings and just get on with it, you're putting yourself in harm's way more than you might think. As well, remember that it isn't your fault if you have begun to follow Tate and others like him. He has created his entire image around persuading you and manipulating you to follow him. But it is your fault if you choose to remain ignorant and defend the negativity that has been spread far and wide due to him. And I'll finish off with a quote from my father.